What's happening, YouTube? Paul from Maine Mountain Media, and today I'm coming to you from
Megadesk.
Spencer has been working from home for the last few days, so I slid both our desks together just to be extra productive. And now I gotta say, I'm a little addicted to Megadesk.
Getting hooked on Megadesk was my own damn fault. All I care about, getting more.
But none of that's important. What's really important is today we're going to be talking about a little behind-the-scenes look at Spencer and I's new short documentary titled Invasive. Invasive is a 6-minute documentary following our hero, who is Amanda Devine with the Maine Coast Heritage Trust, and her battle against non-native invasive plant species. So let's jump in. So right out of the gate, I think we can just address the fun part of any project, which is the gear, the toys we get to play with. So for this project, we were shooting 2 cameras. Obviously, there's 2 of us, so 2 cameras. Both of them were the Sony FX6. And then we actually stuck to the Rokinon Zine CFs for everything except for the long lens, like tight details and wildlife footage that you've seen. So nearly all of it is the 35mm T1.5 and the 50mm T1.5. And then for any like long lens, like telephoto wildlife footage that you see on there, it's the Canon 70-200 f2.8 L series. So camera lenses, we got them rigged out with big V-mount batteries on the back. We have an on-body shotgun. For the shotgun, I run the Deity S-Mic 2S short shotgun, and I have the Rycote wind cover on it. And then Spencer runs the Audio-Technica AT875R, which is a short shotgun as well. We really prefer using relatively short shotgun, or surprisingly short shotguns on camera, because they have a slightly less directional pattern, and it's kind of nice to be able to pick up nat sound from a little wider of an angle. So that's just nice. And also, the shorter the shotgun, the wider the lens can be and the closer it can be to the body, so that your little wind fuzzy doesn't get in the way of the lens if you're shooting like a 16mm or something like that. So that is the gear that we were running for the most part. Obviously, you've probably seen some aerials in the video. So the aerial footage that was shot, it's all with the DJI Mavic 2 Pro, and just loving that camera. Great profile, good quality footage for what it is. Obviously, you can always get better quality images if you fly real cameras. Like if we were to get a bigger drone that could handle the FX6 or an FX3. Only downfall with that is they're just not very travel friendly, and we're going to talk a little bit about that later. So, and then sound for this, obviously a lot of dialogue, a lot of A-roll when it comes to documentary work. This was all done with the Rode Lavalier Go, Rode's lav mic that they have designed for the wireless Go 2 system. I left the wireless Go 2 on the charger. So we went with our backup recorder that we keep in a case, which is the Zoom H1, and that was just in her back pocket, recording all day. For all you eagle-eyed viewers, I bet you can spot that recorder is in her back pocket, but I think for the most part, it's really not the end of the world. And sometimes you just got to do what you got to do when it comes to video footage. Audio is super important, and if you have to slightly compromise your visuals to make sure you get good dialogue and audio, then so be it. So that's the gear talk out of the way. Next section is people. So when it comes to documentary work, at least this style of documentary that we were doing was very much just centered around our hero. Again, Amanda Devine is our hero from Maine Coast Heritage Trust. She was amazing to work with, tons of fun, like a super personality, but not just that. She's also doing work that we think is doing good for the community and for the environment. And she's also just super charismatic. She's just like a super fun person. So she was super fun to spend the day with in general. And she was also, there was like no warm-up time in terms of like getting her on camera and getting her mic'd up and all that kind of stuff. We did a pretty good job prepping her. Spencer spent a little bit of time chatting with her on the phone. And we had a connection with her. And so I guess my advice would be go with what you know. If there are people in your life that are fun, charismatic people and they have a story to tell, focus on those. Making something's better than nothing, and this was a really cool story that just happened to be someone we already knew and was really close to home for us, which just made it logistically way easier. We did all the filming in one day. We did a little pre-production with Amanda, but fairly minimum. We were basically following her along on a day of work. She obviously sacrificed efficiency on that day. She spent a lot less time working than she would have because she was catering to us. But yeah, for the most part, this was just a passion project all around. So when it comes to the production and techniques that we used and maybe some advice that we would give, I think one thing that we decided to go for was just film everything. Even though we had a loose outline on what we wanted to accomplish, we weren't really sure how it was going to come together, and we weren't really sure what we were going to be able to get on the day of. We really only had one day out there, and one day means really only about 3 or 4 hours because there's a lot of prep time, transport. We're filming on an island, which comes with its own set of logistical challenges. We had to be very minimal with our equipment, and we also needed to leave time, and obviously the weather was a major factor as well. It's really, really hard to cut good footage, but if it doesn't lend itself to your story, you gotta part with it. So that was a really hard part for us. Sometimes we're really tempted to like just put every beautiful visual that we capture into a final product. It's really important that you spend your time only using footage that tells your story. Story is everything. And then you got to shape your visuals around that. So the story emerged obviously from her. Amanda was amazing. We prompted her with questions and tried to sort of develop a little bit of a story.
Why is it not crucial to totally remove like the stuff you cut?
But really it all came from her. She had the ideas here. She was the one fighting this battle, right? So she's the one who's battling against non-native invasive plant species. She knows all the tools she needs. She knows all the things that need to be discussed. So we sort of just let her take it and run. And then when we got home, we just pulled out what we needed. So this is a character that was fighting a battle already, and we found her. We didn't like try to create the story, which I think was kind of cool. And then also, it's not an epic story, right? That's the point, right? Not every story needs to be some epic. What she's doing here is making a big impact, but in a small way. So she is just an interesting character who wants something. And for us, that was enough. So some filming tips that we might provide after the way we filmed this, work with less gear. This was something that we tried to do consciously, was limit ourselves in a big way. There is something that we always try to keep in mind, and that's the paradox of choice. For those of you who don't know about the paradox of choice, basically it means the more options you have, the harder it is to choose. So for this project, we decided, look, we have matching cameras, matching lenses. Let's just do it. Let's just go out, see what we can get with this equipment. And then just as backup, which obviously always bring little bits of equipment. So we brought one Pelican case. We brought the 1510. Inside of that, we had batteries, that 7200 millimeter lens that we mentioned. We did bring a wide angle lens, which we ended up not using, an audio recorder, which we ended up using because I forgot the transmitters. And then we brought a few extra mics, and that's about it. Headphones to monitor audio during the interview, and a tripod, which we only used for the interview, which we did on the island, which was super cool. You'll probably see in the video, we did all that with natural light. So we just found a little spot where she had like a nice log to sit on. There was a clearing through the trees of open sky that let sort of blue sky lighting in that created our key light, essentially. So that was a totally naturally lit interview, which was super fun to do, and it's kind of fun. Well, once you get the basics of lighting down, it doesn't necessarily need to be made. You can find good light. One other piece of advice I think I would give is record way more audio than video. So I mentioned that we were using a pocket recorder, the Zoom H1. Files are so small when it comes to audio, and talking is way more important than anything. And it's easier to recreate visuals, I think, than it is to recreate audio. So we just had her recording all day, and anytime she said something, it was authentic, it was real, it was captured in real time. We didn't have to redo anything. And then on top of that, we were paying close attention to our audio. We had a goal in mind. We had a story in our heads. And so the goal for this particular video, in terms of our filming session, was to try to figure out ways to flush out those ideas from her, have her tell the story. We didn't have a script per se, but we had a general idea in our head what we were hoping to capture her saying. And then as she said them, we would listen to the way that she said them, and then we would try to capture the supporting B-roll. So to that point, we did our interview in the middle of the day. So we showed up, we did some B-roll at the beginning. Like we said, we probably could have jumped right into an A-roll interview with her at the beginning of the day if we wanted to, because she was so good on camera. But for a lot of people, they'll want a little bit of time to sort of loosen up, you know, and get the cobwebs off. And there'll be
Deja vu.
a little bit of time in the morning where people want to sort of warm up, and you can start getting your B-roll content then and just capture the process in the morning, get to know them a little bit, get them comfortable around the camera, do your interview in the middle of the day so that after the interview, when you've listened to all the primary talking points, then you can go and get the supporting B-roll that you need, those types of pickup shots and visuals to really reinforce the talking points that you captured during your A-roll. Another good piece of advice would be to work with people you know. I mentioned that in the last section of the video, but really it is nice to work with people that you're familiar with. We don't even go way back with Amanda. We're not super familiar, but we have a few friends in common. We have a few things in common. And that just made building a rapport with her just so easy. Like, we felt like we were old friends by midway through the day. And that just makes the whole thing more comfortable. And all of that comes through in the video. If you're working with people you know, or at least spent a little bit of time to get to know them in advance before the filming day, really goes a long way to sort of build a bit of a rapport, even the morning of, and that'll really come through in your film. So we brought tripod, drone, case, 2 cameras, and of course food and clothing. So we ended up not needing to eat lunch out there. It ended up not being a super long film day, but we did end up using some of the clothing. Actually, our raincoats ended up being covers for the cameras because the wind picked up quite a bit, and when we were boating back to shore from the island, the spray was starting to come up over the boat. Salt water and cameras don't mix, so having a raincoat with us ready to wrap around the camera for that transport on the way back was big time. So always try to be prepared. I think sometimes camera equipment seems and feels like the most important thing that you're bringing with you on the day of, and in fact it sometimes might be the last thing that matters. I think some of the most like clutch items that we've had on big days, big shoot days, are that extra water bottle or that extra, you know, granola bar that we had to just sort of stave off the hanger for just a few more hours to get the day finished. Sunscreen, you know, just like all the little things that you maybe overlook because you're just thinking, do I have my cameras, lenses, mics, all that kind of stuff. Think about yourself as well. You know, the camera's nothing if you're not in good working conditions, so make sure you bring the equipment you need to take care of yourself on the big day. So in conclusion, you guys, we had a lot of fun with this, and I think that would probably be a huge piece of advice I would give to anyone who's making films. Just try to enjoy it and get out there, make the stuff you want to make something rather than nothing. You know, get out there, have fun, make something, and use what you have as well. Don't always be thinking, oh, I need that piece of gear, this piece of gear, that piece of it kills time thinking about equipment. It's a lot of fun, you know, when you're sitting around in the evening and you finish dinner and you're just watching TV. You can consider, you know, what your next lens might be or what microphone is going to be best for you. But when it comes down to it, whatever you have is the best equipment to use, and just get out there and make stuff. Just meet cool people, tell stories, and have fun with it. So I hope that this was a helpful behind the scenes video for you guys. Spencer and I really enjoyed making this film, and if you like this type of content, let us know, because we'd love to keep making more of this type of stuff. A lot of people in the world that have really great stories to tell, and we want to be out there telling those stories. So if you guys liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, whatever it might be, leave them down in the comment section. You know how YouTube works. Hit the subscribe button if you really feel like it, or don't, whatever works.